The stars looked cold from the viewing deck of the Earthship Resolute. Admiral Susan Clark stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the giant space station grow larger as they approached. The station, called Unity Point, was where all the different alien races of the Galactic Council met. Today was an important day. After 50 years of humans being part of the galaxy's civilization, the Council would vote on whether to give humans full membership rights. Susan felt a knot in her stomach. She had read the proposed agreement many times. The terms were not fair. The older alien races wanted to limit where humans could travel, what technology they could use, and how many ships they could build, all while claiming it was for safety and stability. "Admiral, we're docking in 5 minutes," said Lieutenant Eric Vaughn, standing at attention beside her. Susan nodded. "Is the ambassador ready?" "Yes, ma'am. Ambassador Diane Miller is waiting with her team." The Resolute slowed as it approached the massive spinning wheel of Unity Point. The station glittered with thousands of lights, and ships from dozens of worlds moved around it like bees around a hive. It was beautiful, but Susan felt no joy looking at it today. When they docked, Susan met Ambassador Miller in the ship's conference room. Diane was a tall woman with short gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. She had been Earth's top diplomat for 15 years. "They won't change their minds," Diane said without greeting. "I've spoken with the Vrel representative. The Zorak and Ashtar have convinced most of the council to support the restrictions." Susan frowned. "They fear us that much?" "They don't understand us," Diane replied. "And what they don't understand, they fear. The Zorak have been the dominant power for 1,000 years. They see us as a threat to that power." Eric brought them a data tablet showing the latest intelligence. "The Zorak military ships have changed position again. They're moving closer to our border colonies." Susan studied the map and felt cold anger rise inside her. "It's not just about the agreement, then. They're preparing for our answer, whatever it is," Diane nodded. "I think they expect us to either accept their terms or leave the talks. Either way, they win." The 3 humans walked through the sleek corridors of Unity Point toward the Great Chamber. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved around them. Some looked almost human with 2 arms and 2 legs. Others were completely different, floating gas clouds in containment fields, or massive 6-legged creatures that clicked and whistled as they walked. In the early days, humans had been amazed by this diversity. Now, Susan just saw potential enemies. The Great Chamber was enormous. Thousands of seats rose in circles around a central speaking platform. Each section held representatives from different worlds. The oldest races, the Zorak, Ashtar, and Vrel, had the largest sections near the floor. Earth's section was small and high up, showing their low status. High Chancellor Zeresh of the Zorak stood on the central platform. His blue-scaled skin gleamed under the lights and his 4 eyes scanned the chamber. When he spoke, his voice was translated into every language by the room's systems. "Esteemed representatives of the Galactic Council, we gather today to vote on the Human Integration Agreement. For 50 Earth years, humans have been provisional members of our galactic community. Now we must decide if they are ready for fuller participation." Susan watched the large screens around the room as the agreement appeared in multiple languages. The unfair terms were there for all to see, yet most representatives nodded in approval. Ambassador Miller walked to a smaller platform reserved for non-voting members. "The people of Earth appreciate the Council's consideration," she began, her voice steady. "However, we must express concern about the restrictions in this agreement. They treat humans as less than equal members of the galactic community." A murmur spread through the chamber. The Ashtar representative, a tall, insect-like being named Thrix, rose from his seat. "Humans have been in space for only a century," Thrix said. "The rest of us have had thousands of years to develop responsibility. Your species still fights among itself. Your technology advances too quickly without proper consideration of consequences. These restrictions are reasonable safety measures." Diane remained calm. "With respect, these measures go beyond safety. They limit our basic rights to travel, trade, and defend ourselves. No other species faces such restrictions. Zoresh's upper eyes narrowed. Perhaps no other species has shown such capacity for violence in such a short history. The debate continued for hours. Susan watched as alien after alien spoke against Earth. Only a few smaller races, themselves facing discrimination, supported the human position. The Vrel, known for their wisdom and fairness, stayed strangely silent. Finally, Chancellor Zoresh called for the vote. Susan already knew what would happen. The agreement, with all its unfair terms, passed easily. Nearly 80% of the council supported it. The council has spoken, Zoresh announced. Ambassador Miller, Earth has 3 days to formally accept these terms. We look forward to welcoming humans as properly integrated members of our community. The way he said properly integrated made Susan's skin crawl. She leaned over to Diane and whispered, It's time for Plan Exodus. Diane's face showed no emotion, but she gave a slight nod. They had discussed this possibility for months. Earth's government had decided that if the terms were unacceptable, they would take a bold step. Ambassador. Miller stood again. The chamber grew quiet, expecting her to give Earth's formal response. Chancellor Zoresh, respected representatives, she said clearly, Earth does not need 3 days to consider. We reject these terms completely. Furthermore, as of this moment, Earth is withdrawing from the Galactic Council and all associated agreements. The chamber exploded with noise. Zoresh's face darkened to deep purple in anger or shock. The Vrel representatives finally showed emotion, rising from their seats with expressions of alarm. You cannot simply withdraw, Zoresh shouted over the noise. There are protocols, requirements. Actually, we can, Diane interrupted. Unlike full members, Earth is bound only by the Provisional Integration Treaty, which allows either party to withdraw with immediate notice. I am giving that notice now. Susan stood and joined Diane at the platform. She activated her communication device. Captain Kyle, this is Admiral Clark. Begin departure preparations immediately. Notify all human ships in Council space to activate. Protocol Exodus. The Ashtar representative rushed toward them. This is madness. Your worlds cannot survive without Council trade and protection. Susan looked at him calmly. We survived for thousands of years without knowing aliens existed. We'll manage. As they walked out of the Great Chamber, followed by the entire human delegation, Susan felt the weight of what they had done. They were cutting Earth off from the galaxy. It would be hard, maybe even dangerous, but living under the thumb of aliens who feared and controlled them was worse. The Vrel representative, Elder Shima, approached them before they reached their ship. Ambassador Miller, Admiral Clark, please reconsider. The galaxy is not as safe as the Council pretends. There are threats. Then perhaps the Council should have treated us as partners rather than children, Diane replied. Goodbye, Elder Shima. As the Resolute detached from Unity Point and moved away, Susan watched the station grow smaller on the view screen. She knew that what they had just done would change human history forever. But she also knew that sometimes you had to walk away to show your strength. The galaxy had made its biggest mistake. It had pushed humans into a corner, forgetting that cornered. Humans didn't cower, they fought back. 3 months after leaving the Galactic Council, Earth and its colonies faced a hard time. The alien races had cut off all trade with humans. No ships could enter or leave human space without being stopped by Council patrol ships. They called it a temporary quarantine, but everyone knew it was punishment. Steve Rodriguez wiped sweat from his forehead as he carried boxes of lab equipment into the old factory building. Once, this building in New Arizona colony had made luxury goods for trade with alien worlds. Now it was being turned into something more important, a food research center. Careful with that one, called Dr. Laura Mitchell, the colony's head scientist. It contains sensitive testing equipment. Steve set the box down gently. Sorry, Doc. How's the new food growth coming along? Laura frowned. Slowly. We relied too much on imported food. Now we need to grow everything ourselves, but our soil isn't right for Earth crops. This was the problem across all 23 human colonies. For 50 years they had specialized and traded with alien worlds. One colony might focus on making computer parts while getting all its food from elsewhere. This system worked well when they were part of the galactic community. Now it was falling apart. On Earth, Admiral Susan Clark sat in an emergency meeting with world leaders. The large screen on the wall showed the declining supplies of critical materials. "Our fuel reserves will last another 6 months at most," said George Winters, the resource director. "Medical supplies are already being rationed, and 3 colonies report food shortages." President Helen Rodriguez looked tired but determined. "What about the new mining operations on Mars and Titan?" "They're producing, but not enough," George replied. "We spent decades building an economy based on trade. We can't replace that overnight." Susan stood up and walked to the screen. "We don't need to replace everything. Just survive long enough to make them regret what they've done." The president raised an eyebrow. "You think the council will change their minds?" "Eventually," Susan said. "They need us more than they know. But first, we need to show them what humans can do when backed into a corner." She pulled up new images. On the screen, designs for ships and weapons unlike anything humans had built before. "Project Phoenix," she explained. "While we were part of the council, they restricted our military technology. Now we can build what we want." The defense minister, Frank Wilson, looked concerned. "The council already fears us. Won't this make things worse?" "They fear what we might become," Susan corrected. "I'm suggesting we show them exactly what that looks like." Far from Earth, on the small mining colony of New Hope, things were getting desperate. The colony had specialized in mining rare metals for alien luxury goods. Now those metals sat useless in warehouses while people went hungry. Colony Governor Lisa Chen looked out her office window at the lines of people waiting for food rations. The sight made her heart heavy. She turned back to face the small group, gathered in her office. "We have 2 weeks of food left," she told them. "The supply ship from Earth isn't due for another month, and even then, they may not have much to spare." Jack Foster, the colony's chief engineer, spread a map on her desk. "We've been thinking about this problem, Governor. The northern continent has rich soil, but it's too cold for farming. If we use the waste heat from the mining operations to warm greenhouses, we might be able to grow food there." Lisa studied the map. "That would take a lot of work and materials we don't have." "We have something better than materials," said Maria Gonzalez, the education director. "We have people who need purpose. Everyone is afraid and feeling helpless. Give them a project that might save us all and watch what happens." 3 days later, almost every colonist on New Hope was working on what they called the Great Garden Project. Children collected and sorted seeds. Miners used their equipment to dig irrigation channels. Engineers designed heating systems using parts from non-essential machines. On the 6th day, a small council scout ship appeared in orbit. It wasn't unusual. The aliens often sent ships to observe the human colonies, probably hoping to see them falling apart. This time they saw something different. They saw an entire colony working together, building something new. The same story played out across human space. Cut off from the galaxy, each colony found ways to adapt. Some succeeded, others struggled, but all showed the human ability to face challenges head-on. On Unity Point Station, the Galactic Council was meeting again. Chancellor Zoresh seemed annoyed as he addressed the gathered representatives. "It has been 97 days since the humans left our council," he said. "Reports indicate they are struggling as expected. However, they show no signs of requesting readmission." Elder Shima of the Vrel stood slowly. The Vrel were known for speaking only when they had something important to say. "Perhaps we should consider ending the quarantine," Shima suggested. "It serves no purpose except to create unnecessary hardship." Zoresh's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. "The quarantine is a security measure to prevent human aggression." "Is it?" Shima asked quietly. "Or is it punishment for their refusal to accept unequal treatment? And if it is punishment, what lesson do we hope to teach?" Before Zoresh could answer, an aide rushed into the chamber and whispered something to him. His blue scales darkened with concern. "We have just received a disturbing report," Zoresh announced. "Our observation ships have detected unusual activity in human space. They appear to be building new types of vessels, warships, unlike any they have made before. The chamber filled with worried murmurs. The Ashtar representative, Thrix, clicked, his mandibles anxiously. "This confirms our fears," Thrix said. "Given freedom from our oversight, humans immediately turned to military expansion." Elder Shima looked thoughtful. Or perhaps feeling threatened, they turned to self-defense. The distinction matters. Meanwhile, in a hidden shipyard orbiting Jupiter, the first of Earth's new ships was nearing completion. The Defiance was twice the size of any previous human warship. Its sleek black hull contained technologies the Council had forbidden humans to develop. Chief Engineer Olivia Murphy floated in space near the ship's main sensor array, making final adjustments. Through her helmet radio, she heard the voice of Captain John Parker from the control center. "Olivia, how much longer? Admiral Clark wants a progress report." "Tell her we're ahead of schedule," Olivia replied. "2 more days and we'll be ready for power-up tests." As she worked, Olivia could see Earth in the distance, a blue marble against the blackness of space. 6 months ago, she had been designing civilian ships with alien-approved technology. Now she was helping build humanity's first true independent defense fleet. She didn't want war with the aliens, few humans did. But after centuries of fighting each other, humans had learned an important lesson. Strength was respected. And sometimes you had to show your strength to earn peace. In her office on Earth, Admiral Susan Clark received the update about the Defiance with satisfaction. The plan was working. Humanity was not just surviving, it was growing stronger. And soon, the galaxy would realize what a mistake it had made by pushing humans away. 6 months after humans left the Galactic Council, the first attack came. It was early morning on the colony world of New Dawn when the alien ships appeared in the sky. Colony Director Michelle Powell was awakened by the blaring alarms. She rushed to the command center, still pulling on her uniform jacket. "Status report," she demanded as she entered the room. 5 Ashtar warships just dropped out of hyperspace," said Security Chief Ben Carter. His face was grim as he pointed to the display screen. "They're not responding to our communications." Michelle stared at the screen. The Ashtar were insect-like aliens known for their strict adherence to Council rules. If they were here, they had Council approval. "Evacuation status?" she asked. "Already started. The emergency shelters are opening. But if those ships attack..." Ben didn't need to finish his sentence. New Dawn had no real defenses. It was a farming colony, home to 15,000 people who grew crops and raised animals. The first energy blast hit the colony's small spaceport, destroying it instantly. The second took out the power plant. As darkness fell over the command center, emergency lights flickered on. "Get everyone to the underground shelters," Michelle ordered. "And send the emergency signal to Earth. Code Red, we're under attack." The message took 20 minutes to reach Earth. When it did, it found humanity ready. Admiral Susan Clark was reviewing the latest test results from the Defiance when the alert came in. She immediately called an emergency meeting with President Rodriguez and the Defense Council. "The Ashtar are attacking New Dawn," she reported, "a farming colony with no military value." "A test," said Defense Minister Wilson. "They want to see how we respond." President Rodriguez looked at the star map showing the location of New Dawn. "How soon can we get ships there?" "That's the problem," Susan replied. "New Dawn is 3 days away at our best speed. By then, it will be too late for the colonists," the president finished. She took a deep breath. "Is the Defiance ready?" Susan hesitated. "It's completed testing, but the crew hasn't had full training yet." "It'll have to do," the president decided. "What about the new drive?" "Untested on a ship this size," Susan admitted. "But the simulations are promising." Within an hour, the Defiance was preparing for its first real mission. Captain John Parker stood on the bridge looking at his crew. They were the best Earth had, but they were about to use technology no human had ever used before. "The situation is simple," he told them. "Our people are under attack. We need to get there fast and hit hard. The new jump drive should get us there in under an hour instead of 3 days." His second-in-command, Commander Lisa Wade, looked concerned. The jump drive is still experimental, sir. Everything we're doing is experimental, John replied with a small smile. That's the point. The aliens think they know what we're capable of. Time to show them they're wrong. The Defiance moved away from Jupiter's orbit. Its sleek black hull absorbed light rather than reflecting it. At its heart was the new jump drive, a technology the Council had forbidden humans to develop. It could bend space in ways that made conventional travel seem slow. Jump drive powering up, reported the engineering officer Aaron Kim. All systems nominal. John took a deep breath. Take us to New Dawn. There was a moment of strange pressure, as if the whole ship was being squeezed. Stars outside the viewports stretched into lines, then vanished. For 30 disorienting seconds there was nothing to see. Then reality snapped back and they were orbiting New Dawn. Jump successful, Aaron reported, sounding surprised. All systems operational. Scan the planet, John ordered. Find those Ashtar ships. The news wasn't good. 2 human settlements had already been destroyed. The third and largest was under attack now. The 5 Ashtar warships were systematically destroying everything. They're not even taking prisoners, Lisa said, her voice tight with anger. This isn't a military operation, it's extermination. John nodded grimly. Weapons status? Pulse cannons charged, missile bays ready. Target the nearest Ashtar ship, and fire. The Defiance had been built in secret, using technology the aliens thought humans couldn't understand. Its weapons were more powerful than anything humans had been allowed to build before. The pulse cannon hit the first Ashtar ship with such force that it broke apart instantly. The other Ashtar ships stopped their attack on the colony and turned toward the Defiance. They clearly hadn't expected to face any real opposition. They're hailing us, Lisa reported. John nodded. Put them through. The view screen showed an Ashtar commander, his insect-like features unreadable to human eyes. When he spoke, the ship's computer translated. Human vessel, you are interfering with a sanctioned council operation. Withdraw immediately. John stood up straight. This is Captain John Parker of the Earth Defense Ship Defiance. You are attacking a peaceful human colony. Withdraw your forces, or be destroyed. The Ashtar commander's antennae twitched. You have 1 primitive ship. We have 4 warships. You cannot hope to... John cut the transmission. Target the next ship. Fire when ready. The battle lasted 12 minutes. When it was over, 3 Ashtar ships were destroyed. The last one jumped away, leaving New Dawn's sky empty except for the Defiance. On the planet's surface, Michelle Powell stood outside the emergency shelter, looking up at the black ship now orbiting protectively overhead. The colonists around her were a mix of scared and amazed. I thought we were dead for sure, Ben said, joining her. No one gets here from Earth in less than 3 days. Michelle nodded. Something's changed. We've changed. News of the battle spread quickly through human space. The first alien attack had been defeated. More importantly, the Defiance had used technology that showed humans had been holding back during their years in the Council. On Unity Point Station, the Council was in an uproar. Chancellor Zoresh faced angry representatives demanding explanations. The attack was not authorized by the full Council, he insisted. The Ashtar acted alone and they have been punished for it. Elder Shima of the Vrel looked skeptical. Yet you did nothing to stop them. And now we learn that humans have developed jump technology far beyond what we believed possible. They defeated 4 Ashtar warships with a single vessel. Thrix, representing the Ashtar, clicked angrily. The humans must have been secretly developing these technologies for years, even while in the Council. They deceived us all. Did they? Asked Shima. Or did they simply learn by watching? Humans observe, adapt, and improve faster than any species we have encountered. Perhaps instead of fearing this ability, we should have valued it. In a private chamber after the meeting, Zoresh met with representatives from several elder races. Their discussion was secret, but their fear was obvious. The humans must be contained, Zoresh insisted. If they can develop jump technology so quickly on their own, what else might they create? We have relied on controlling their advancement through technology restrictions. That advantage is now gone. A representative from the secretive Drax race spoke up. There is a more urgent concern. The Void Collective's ships have been detected at the galaxy's edge again. They grow stronger. If humans continue to develop their military technology unchecked, they might eventually challenge the Collective, Zoresh finished, or they might join them. Back on Earth, Admiral Susan Clark received the full report of the Defiance's success. President Rodriguez was with her, both women studying the battle data. The jump drive worked perfectly, Susan noted, and our weapons were more effective than projected. The president nodded. Will the council retaliate? Eventually, Susan said. But first, they'll reconsider. We've shown them we're stronger than they thought. Now we need to show them we're more valuable as allies than as enemies. She pulled up a star map showing a region at the edge of known space. This is where we'll make our stand. This is where we'll show them what humans can really do. 1 year had passed since humans left the Galactic Council. What started as a desperate move had turned into something unexpected. Humanity wasn't just surviving. It was thriving. In the main shipyard orbiting Mars, Chief Engineer Olivia Murphy watched as workers finished construction on the 10th new warship. This one was named Courage, and it was even more advanced than the Defiance. Amazing what we can do when no one is holding us back, said a voice behind her. Olivia turned to see Admiral Susan Clark floating toward her in the zero gravity of the observation deck. Admiral, I didn't know you were visiting today, Olivia said with surprise. Susan smiled. I wanted to see our newest ship with my own eyes. She looked out at the Courage. How many improvements does it have over the Defiance? 23 major ones, Olivia replied proudly. The jump drive is 30% more efficient, weapons are faster to charge, and the shield technology is completely new, based on something we learned from studying that damaged Ashtar ship. After the battle at New Dawn, humans had collected pieces of the destroyed alien ships. By studying this technology, they learned things the Council had kept secret from them for decades. Susan nodded with satisfaction. And the special project? How is that coming along? Olivia glanced around to make sure no one was listening. Even among humans, few knew about the special project. It's ready for testing, she said quietly. If it works, it will change everything. On Unity Point Station, the Galactic Council was having its most serious meeting in centuries. Representatives from all member races were present. The topic was simple but frightening. The Void Collective. Chancellor Zoresh stood at the center of the chamber, his blue scales pale with stress. The Void Collective has taken 3 more systems in the Outer Rim, he announced. Their ships now number in the thousands. Our scouts report they have technology we have never seen before. The chamber filled with worried whispers. The Void Collective was a mysterious enemy that had appeared at the edge of the galaxy 2 years ago. They weren't alive in the normal sense. They were machines that thought for themselves and wanted to convert all matter into more of themselves. What of our defense fleet? Asked a representative from a small world near the galaxy's edge. Zoresh looked down. Our ships engage when possible, but the Collective adapts quickly to our weapons. We lose 3 ships for every one of theirs we destroy. Elder Shima of the Vrel stood slowly. Perhaps it is time to reconsider our position on the humans. The chamber went silent. Since the battle at New Dawn, the Council had maintained an uneasy distance from human space. They watched the rapid development of human technology with growing concern. The humans? Zoresh said with disbelief. They are part of the problem. In just 1 year, they have built a fleet of advanced warships. They ignore the rules that have kept peace in this galaxy for thousands of years. And yet, Shima replied calmly, they might be what we need. The Void Collective is unlike any enemy we have faced. Perhaps we need an ally that is unpredictable. On Earth, President Helen Rodriguez sat in her office with Ambassador Diane Miller. They were watching a recorded message from the Vrel. It was the first official communication from any council race in a year. The Vrel want to talk, Helen said after the message ended. Not the whole council, just them. They say it's about a threat to the entire galaxy. Diane looked thoughtful. The Vrel were always the most reasonable of the elder races. If they're reaching out, it must be serious. Do we trust them? Helen asked. No, Diane said simply. But we listen. That's what diplomats do. 3 days later, aboard the human ship Unity, chosen for its name as a gesture of good faith, Admiral Susan Clark, Ambassador Diane Miller, and Defense Minister Frank Wilson met with Elder Shima of the Vrel. Shima was tall and thin with silvery skin that seemed to shimmer. Like all Vrel, he moved with a fluid grace that made humans look clumsy in comparison. I thank you for agreeing to this meeting, Shima began. There is much that needs to be said between our peoples, but time is short. We're listening, Diane said cautiously. Shima activated a small device that projected a 3D map of the galaxy. Several regions at the edge were highlighted in red. This is the territory now controlled by the Void Collective, he explained. They are a machine intelligence that consumes everything in its path to create more of itself. They feel no fear, no mercy, and they learn from every encounter. Susan studied the map with a professional eye. How many ships do they have? Over 4,000 that we know of, Shima replied. And they build more every day. Frank Wilson frowned. Why come to us? The Council has far more resources than humanity. Shima's silver eyes seemed to dim slightly. Because we are losing. The Council races have been at peace for too long. We follow the same strategies, use the same technologies. The Collective adapts to these quickly. And you think we're different, Susan said. It wasn't a question. We know you are, Shima confirmed. In 1 year since leaving the Council, humans have developed technology that surprised us all. You think differently. You adapt quickly. You do the unexpected. Diane leaned forward. The same qualities the Council feared in us. Yes, Shima admitted. We were wrong to fear what makes you unique. Now we need those qualities to survive. Back on Earth, the human leadership debated what to do with the Vrel's information. Some wanted nothing to do with the aliens who had treated them poorly. Others saw an opportunity. The Collective will reach human space eventually, Susan pointed out. Better to fight them now, with potential allies, than alone later. President Rodriguez made her decision. We will help, but on our terms. Equal partnership, full technology sharing, and recognition of human space as independent. When Diane presented these terms to Shima, the Vrel elder accepted without hesitation. I am authorized to agree to all conditions. The situation is that desperate. 2 weeks later, the special project Olivia Murphy had mentioned was ready. On a remote testing ground in the asteroid belt, Susan and a small team of observers watched as the device was activated. It didn't look impressive, just a metal sphere about the size of a basketball. But when it turned on, it did something remarkable. It created a small area where the laws of physics seemed to change. Energy moved in ways it shouldn't. Matter behaved differently. We call it the reality shifter, Olivia explained proudly. It can disrupt any technology within its field, even technology we don't understand. Susan watched the test results with growing hope. Will it work against the Void Collective? In theory, yes, Olivia said. Their ships, like all ships, rely on certain physical constants. This changes those constants in a small area. How many can we build? Susan asked. That's the problem, Olivia admitted. The materials are very rare. We have enough for maybe 12 devices. Susan nodded slowly. Then we need to make them count. We're going to hit the Collective where they least expect it, and we're going to show the galaxy just what humans can do when we're pushed too far. The day of the great battle arrived faster than anyone expected. The Void Collective had accelerated its advance, taking 5 more star systems in just 2 weeks. Now a joint fleet of human and alien ships gathered at the edge of the Vrel home system. Admiral Susan Clark stood on the bridge of the Determination, Earth's newest and largest warship. Through the main view screen, she could see hundreds of ships from a dozen different races. It was a sight no human had ever witnessed before. The combined might of the galaxy united against a common enemy. Alien ships are moving into formation, reported Commander Lisa Wade. The Vrel and Ashtar ships are taking the front positions, Susan nodded. And the council ships? Holding back in reserve as agreed. The battle plan was simple but risky. The Vrel and Ashtar would engage the collective's front lines. Human ships would use their advanced jump drives to appear behind the enemy fleet. And then they would deploy the reality shifters. Susan took a deep breath. Open a channel to Elder Shima. The Vrel leader appeared on screen. Unlike most aliens, the Vrel had learned to read human expressions, and Shima had learned to mimic them. He gave what approximated a smile. Admiral Clark, are your ships ready? As ready as we'll ever be, Susan replied. 12 ships, 12 reality shifters. We'll only get one chance at this. Shima's silver eyes seemed to darken. The collective has never faced humans before. They won't expect what you can do. Let's hope that's enough. The transmission ended and Susan turned to her crew. Every person on the bridge watched her with trust and determination in their eyes. They had trained for this moment, knowing the fate of not just humanity but the entire galaxy might rest on their actions. The plan is unchanged, she told them. We jump in, deploy the shifters, and get out. The timing has to be perfect. Lisa checked her display. Enemy ships detected at the edge of the system. Over 2,000 vessels approaching in attack formation. Susan straightened her uniform. All ships, prepare to jump on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Mark. The Determination and 11 other human ships vanished from their positions. The strange pressure of the jump drive squeezed everyone for a moment before they reappeared, directly behind the massive collective fleet. The Void Collective ships were unlike anything humans had seen before. They weren't built. They were grown. Each vessel looked like a twisted piece of metal that had been melted and reshaped. No two were exactly alike, yet they moved with perfect coordination. They've detected us, Lisa reported. Enemy ships are breaking formation to engage. Deploy. The reality shifters, Susan ordered. All ships fire when ready. From each human vessel, a small probe launched toward the center of the collective fleet. The probes were little more than delivery systems for the reality shifter devices. If they worked as designed, they would create zones where physics itself changed, where the collective's technology would fail. On the main collective ship, something unusual was happening. The ship was massive, easily 10 times the size of the Determination. Its surface rippled like liquid metal as it processed new information. The collective had encountered many enemies in its expansion. It had adapted to defeat them all. But these new ships, these human vessels, used technology it had never seen. The first reality shifter activated in the heart of the collective fleet. A sphere of distorted space expanded outward, encompassing dozens of enemy ships. Within that sphere, their systems began to fail. Ships collided with each other. Weapons fired randomly or not at all. It's working, Lisa exclaimed. More reality shifters activated, creating more spheres of chaos among the enemy fleet. But the collective was intelligent. It analyzed what was happening and adjusted. The largest ships moved away from the affected areas. Others sacrificed themselves, flying into the distortion fields to map their effects. They're adapting, Susan realized, faster than we expected. At the front of the battle, the Vrel and Ashtar ships engaged the collective directly. Energy weapons flashed across space. Ships on both sides exploded in silent bursts of light. The collective was powerful, but with their rear forces in disarray from the reality shifters, they couldn't coordinate properly. On Unity Point Station, Chancellor Zoresh and the Council watched the battle through remote feeds. The chamber was silent as they observed the human tactics. They're sacrificing themselves, one representative noted as a human ship flew directly into a cluster of collective vessels before detonating its reality shifter. Zoresh's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. No, they're doing what we could not. They're thinking beyond rules and tradition. They're improvising. The battle raged for hours. The reality shifters created havoc in the collective fleet, but it wasn't enough. The machines were adapting, learning to operate even in the distorted physics of the shifter fields. On the Determination, Susan received reports of heavy losses among the Vrel and Ashtar ships. The human fleet was down to 8 vessels and the collective still had over 1,000 ships operational. We need something else, she muttered. Something they can't adapt to. And then she had an idea, a desperate human idea. All ships, focus. Reality shifters on the main collective vessel, she ordered. Then overload your jump drives while inside the shifter fields. Lisa looked alarmed. Admiral, that would create a cascade effect in space-time. We don't know what would happen. Exactly, Susan said. Neither do they. The order went out. The remaining human ships coordinated their attacks, focusing all remaining reality shifters around the main collective vessel. Then, following the determination's lead, they activated their jump drives, not to jump away, but to create a deliberate malfunction. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The overlapping reality distortions interacted with the jump drive fields, creating a ripple in spacetime that spread outward. Inside that ripple, space itself seemed to fold and unfold repeatedly. The collective's ships, connected by a shared intelligence, all tried to process this impossible event simultaneously. Their systems locked up as they encountered something they couldn't adapt to, because it broke the fundamental rules they operated on. When the ripple faded, over half the collective fleet was drifting, disabled. The rest were in disarray, no longer functioning as a coordinated force. The Vrel and Ashtar ships, joined now by the Council's reserve fleet, moved in to finish the battle. A month later, representatives from all galactic races gathered on Unity Point Station. It was the largest assembly in the station's history. At its center stood humans and aliens side by side. Chancellor Zaresh addressed the crowd, his voice carrying throughout the chamber. Today we sign a new treaty, a treaty of equals. No longer will any race be considered less than others. Together, we defeated the greatest threat our galaxy has faced. Together, we will rebuild. Susan Clark stood next to Elder Shima, watching as Ambassador Diane Miller signed the treaty on behalf of humanity. Around them, representatives from every race waited for their turn. Was it worth it? Shima asked quietly. All that happened because you walked out of peace talks? Susan thought about the last year and a half, the struggles, the innovations, the lives lost, but also the pride, the achievements, the bonds formed. Yes, she said finally. Sometimes you have to walk away to be seen for who you really are. And the galaxy had made a mistake in underestimating humans. It was a mistake they would never make again.